Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. We'll begin Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, the Mishnah towards the bottom. Zok the Mishnah, Ha'oichel Trumas Chametz bePesach. If a person eats azar, he eats truma etz chametz on Pesach, Mishalem keren v'chaimish. He pays a keren v'chaimish. So the din is that if a azar eats truma, if it's b'shogeg, he has to pay back the principal amount plus a fifth for which is a quarter from the keren, from the principal amount. He pays a keren v'chaimish. Now he pays it in produce, and that produce becomes truma. It becomes truma. Now this Tana, as we'll see, the Tana is holding that chametz on Pesach is also ba'ana. It's also ba'ana. So, but the zar aid really is something that didn't have any value. Nevertheless, he has to pay. He has to pay because the tashlumim b'shogeg the Tana holds is not a tashlumim of a gazlan. The tashlumim is as a kapara. He has to replenish to replace the truma that was taken. So he replaced it. Even though it doesn't have value, he still nevertheless has to pay that, and he has to replenish it. So he pays the keren v'chaimish. He has to pay a keren and a chaimish, even though it's also ba'ana. But b'mezid, if he ate it b'mezid, so now when we talk about shogeg and mezid over here, we're talking about shogeg and mezid of the truma, not of the isra of chametz. We're talking about the truma. Now, if he ate b'mezid, if a person azar eats truma b'mezid, he does not pay a chaimish. He pays the keren, and it does not become truma. So that type of a payment is like a payment as a gazlan. So therefore, we assess it like a gazlan. If he took something of value, he has to pay. If there's no value, he doesn't have to pay. Now this is chametz on Pesach. We're going that it's also b'hana. Therefore, b'mezid patur b'tashlumim b'dmei eitzim is patur from tashlumim because he didn't take anything of value. It's also b'hana. And midmei eitzim, truma, which is tamea, has to be burnt. But there's a heter to get benefit from it as it's being burnt. If you're using it for firewood, you can use it as firewood and get the hana of using it for the firewood. For yours, it's yours for this type of a purpose. Now, in this case over here, it's also b'hana. So therefore, the zar who ate the truma b'mezid, he does not have to pay anything because there is no value. He took something of no value. Tanan Hasan, we learned ha'echot truma b'shogeg mishalem keren v'chaimish. We learned in Masechet Trumas that if a person he ate truma azar, ate truma b'shogeg, he pays keren v'chaimish. If it's something edible, or if he drinks it, something that's a mashka, where he rubs it, anoints it on his skin, that's also considered like drinking. Whether it's truma tamei or truma tahira, so even if it's tamei which has to be burnt, which can't be eaten, whether it's tahara which can be in mishalem chaimish, he has to pay the keren plus a chaimish. Now, as we mentioned, this keren and the chaimish becomes truma. He is replenishing the truma, and therefore the chaimish also has a din of truma. The chumsha. Then if he ate the chaimish, it's like eating truma, and he has to pay a chaimish, a keren and chaimish of that chaimish. So we have a shalik kishum mishalem lefi mida mishalem or lefi dami mishalem. So when he pays, does he pay in terms of replenishing the quantity, the measurement, or the value? So, for instance, if there was a saw of a bushel of truma, he replenishes a saw, or is it according to the monetary value of it that at the time when he ate it? So now, kol mikar shava arba zuza ulasay shava zuza. In a case where mikor, where initially, at the time that he ate it, the time that he consumed it, it was worth 4 zuz. And right now, it's worth, at the time of the repayment, it's only worth a zuz. Loiti boilach, that's not a shaila. He certainly has to pay according to the monetary value at the time of consumption. That is not a question, because no matter which way that you view it, he would have to pay that value, because it can't be any less than a gazlan, meaning he's a gazlan and perhaps more than a gazlan, but he's not less than a gazlan. Now in a gazlan, in that case, he would have to pay the higher value. This non called Hagazlan Mishon Kshas Gzela. In a Gazlan, in a similar case, if he stole something worth 4, and at the time of repayment it went down in value, it's only worth 1, he has to pay Kshas Gzela. So here he's no less than a Gazlan, he would certainly have to pay the higher value. Kiti Boyalach, the Shaila is the Mikoresh of Zuzah. In a case where at the time of consumption it was only worth a zuz. Now at the time of repayment it's gone up in value, it's worth 4. How much does he pay? Do you say if he meet a mishalim? When he repay it, does he pay it according to the volume of what he consumed? So do you say if he meet a shalim de amarle griva achal griva mishalim? Can the Kayan say to him that you ate this measure of the truma, you have to pay back this measure, the same volume, the same amount. Now, even if it went up in price and the value went up, nevertheless, can the Kayan demand and say you ate this quantity, you have to repay this quantity, even if it's worth more? Or do we say no, he pays according to the monetary value of what he consumed? So there he would only have to pay a zuz worth of the truma of that volume. Amar of Yosef, let's bring a raya tashma. I'll call groigers a shlit morim. If he ate groigers of figs, and he paid back in dates tavalah brach, then he's gebench tavalah brach. Now, if you say that the repayment is according to the volume, according to the measurement, so we understand why we say tavalah brach. Why is that? Because he ate, let's say, a measurement of gregors of the figs that's only worth, let's say, a zuz. Now he pays back volume. So he pays back a griva, but if he pays it in dates, he's paid back something that's worth more. So tavalah bracha, right? If you say you pay back in volume, you have to pay in volume. So tavalah bracha, because he paid the volume of a griva, but he paid with something with dates which is worth more. So tavalah bracha. But if you say he pays according to the monetary value, well, what has he done? Anything special over here? Why is it tavalah bracha? Why has he done more than the basic requirement? He ate a zuz worth. He paid back something that's worth a zuz. So what difference does it make if it's figs or it's date? He paid back something which is the same monetary value. So why is it tavalah bracha? He says, no, it's not a right. Maybe I'll tell you what he pays is according to the monetary value. But my tavalah bracha, the achal needed like kavsel zvini, the kamishal needed a kavsel zvini. Because perhaps I'll tell you the value is the same, but the dates are in higher demand than the figs. So he ate figs worth a zuz. Perhaps he pays back only dates worth a zuz. But dates are inherently more desirable because there's a bigger market, a greater market for dates. So therefore, the kohen has received in return something which he can sell. And it has a greater, therefore, accessibility to the market. It's more over l'seicher, that's why it's tavalah bracha. But maybe the monetary value is the same. So we have no raya. Tanan, let's bring a raya from our Mishnah. If a person eats truma, which chametz on Pesach, so the Mishnah says, the Tana says, he has to pay a keren v'chaimish. If you tell me that he pays back in volume, I understand why he now pays a keren v'chaimish. He ate something. Now, even though it's chametz on Pesach has no value, but you pay back, and not if you dumb him, you don't assess it according to the value of what he ate. It's the volume of the measure of what he ate. So therefore, he pays back a keren v'chaimish, the volume, the measure of what he ate. Keren plus a chaimish. But if you say he pays according to the monetary value, chametz b'Pesach about damimu, there's no value of chametz on Pesach. It's all about no. So he didn't eat anything of any value. Where it says, no, it's not right. Yeah. Yes, he did eat something of value, because I can say and learn not the way we understood the Mishnah. In Hamani Rav Yosef Galili, we're going according to Rav Yosef Galili, Damar Chametz Pesach, mutar bahana. That is mutar bahana. So it didn't have value because chametz on Pesach is mutar bahana. So therefore, he ate something of value. So you have no raya. Frankly, Gemara, what do you mean? The Sefer says, "B'mezid pater min tashluma." Omid eats him if he ate the truma. B'mezid, he does not have to pay, and does not have to pay if it's tomei for the value of it as firewood. Now, if you're going according to Rabbi Yosef Galili, why should it be pater if he did it b'mezid? It's mutar bahana. He ate something of value. He should have to repay. The more answers no. Really, I'll tell you, it's lefi domim. You pay lefi domim. And we're going according to Rabbi Yosef Galili that comes in Pesach mutar bahana. Why b'mezid is he pater? Because kamle b'rabminei. Because b'asam he should be chayav. But because since he ate the chametz b'mezid, and we're talking where he ate it b'mezid, and it's on Pesach, therefore it's kamle b'rabminei. Savarla, Rabbi Chuna ben Akana, the son of Rabbi Chuna ben Akana, Hayoises, Yom Kippurim, Keshavos Tashlumim. Just like on Shabbos where there's a Mises Bezdin, we say Kamla bin Rabbinei. Here also we say Kamla bin Rabbinei, even though it's chorus and not a Mises Bezdin, so we say Kamla bin Rabbinei. So therefore, there's no raya. Maybe the Patur is because of Kamla Rabbinei, not because we're going according to, not because we're saying that it's also bana. We're going according to Yosef Galil, it's mutar bana, but b'mezer pater because of kamlei b'rabnei. So we have no raya from our Mishnah. Now the Gemara is going to attempt to prove from other sources that it's a machlokes tanoim whether we say lefi dami mishalim or lefi we say lefi mida mishalim. Gitanoi. Let's say this is a machlokes tanoim. Because we see in this price it says ha'oichal truma is chometz b'Pesach. If a person eats truma, which is chometz on Pesach, pater min tashlum u'mitmei eitzim, he does not have to make any payment for the value or for it as firewood. Divrei Rabbi Kiva. That's what Rabbi Kiva says. Rav Yochanan ben Nuri mechayev, but Rav Yochanan ben Nuri says no, you're chayev. You do have to make a payment. He says, in the case where it's shogeg, you have to make a payment. In the case of a shogeg, you do have to make a payment. As we'll see from the Gemara, from the Viter, that is, it's muchach, that it is talking in shogeg. That's as the Pnei Yeshua points out. So Rav Yochanan ben Nuri is mechayiv in a case of shogeg. Amar Rabbi Kiva, Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, v'chi ma hano yesh lema. What do you mean he has to pay? There's no hano. So he didn't take anything of benefit, so there's no hana. So apparently, as we'll see in the Maskona, this indicates Rabbi Kiva says you pay lefi damin, there has to be benefit, and there's no benefit. So he tied it to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Well, why do you have to pay? There's no benefit over here. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Rabbi Kiva answered back, well, if a person eats, a zar eats truma, which is tameya, it has no value. It has to be burnt, and it's not Pesach. Yet he has to pay. If he nevertheless he has to pay for it. He has to pay and replenish it. So what's the difference between truma tameya b'shar kol yimei shana and truma of chametz on Pesach? Amar lawyer, because he answered him, he says, Loi Amar b'truma tamei b'shai meisa shana. No, you can't compare it. Truma tamei b'shai meisa shana, she'af al pi shein l'bahetra achila, yesh l'bahetra asaka. You can't eat it, but you still get a benefit. There's still a benefit that you can get from it because you can use it as fuel, as firewood. You can burn it and get hana from the burning of it. So it has some benefit. How can you compare it to this case over here, where it's chometz on Pesach, where you can't get any hana from it? There's not even a benefit to use it as firewood. There's no benefit whatsoever. What does it compare to? To a case of truma of you have berries or strawberries or mulberries or grapes, which became tame, which are not, you can't eat it because it's tame. They're not usable as fuel because they're liquids. You can't use it it doesn't consume and they're not flammable. And as Rashi points out, you can't use it also for silov, to sprinkle it and get the aroma. That's also midrabanan. It has no value. It has no value whatsoever. So in that case, you don't have to make any restitution. You don't have to pay for it. That's what this is compared to. So you can't compare it to the case of Truma Tumei B'Shayim Ma'aseh Shana. This is different. It'd be like Truma Tusam V'Anavim Shenitma. So therefore, he says, Rabbi Kiva says, in the case of Chametz and Pesach, you do have to pay. There is a hana from it, and you do have to pay. Now, Rav Yochanan ben Nuri holds that he did make that comparison. He holds, and as Taisus is Masber in Shabbos, he holds that hana that you get is only incidental. That hana that you get from the burning of it, really the burning of it is for the kiyum of the mitzvah of burning the Truma Tameah. The fact that you can get hana for hasaka is only incidental, so that's not considered to be in itself a hana. But medvorim, the Brisa continues, medvorim b'mafresh truma v'achmitz. That's only when, with the time that he was mafresh the truma, it was not chametz, and then it became chametz later. Then it became chametz. So it became chametz and on Pesach. Ava mafresh truma's chametz, but if he was mafresh truma, which was already chametz, if he was mafresh, it was already chametz, then, meaning it was mafresh, it was chametz on Pesach, divrei kol ein kedusha. Everyone agrees that it's not kaddish. Dimi mafresh truma, which is chametz on Pesach, everyone agrees it's not kaddish. We'll see in the Gemara Vayter, Daf Lamed Gimel, why is that so? Now, as the Gemara will explain, we'll see shortly, but this is the katanoi that we're discussing, where we see whether you have to make or payment or you don't have to make payment. Right? So it will depend if there is a hana or not a hana. So the Rabbi Kiva says that there's no hana. So he says, your potter tashlumu d'meitzim. Rav Yochanan ben Nuri rather is machayev. So as the Gemara will explain, you see from here, it's a machlekes. Now we're going where there's no hana. We're going according to the Tanoim, the whole is also b'hana. Nevertheless, there's a machlekes. Do you have to pay or not? Which would seem to indicate it's a machlekes. Do you pay lefi damim, lefi the value, or lefi mida, lefi the volume? And it doesn't matter if it doesn't have, of what you consumed has no value. You have to replenish it with something with produce of the same mida. Tanyida, we bring another brisa that would indicate the same thing. It says you have to give the kaidesh, the zar ate the truma, he has to pay the kaidesh, and he has to add in the chaimesh. So davar haroy liyais kaidesh, what he pays is only something that could become kaidesh. You have to pay, replenish it with produce that could become truma. That's what you pay with. So prat lo echol trumas chametz b'Pesach, but it's prat, it excludes somebody who eats trumas chametz b'Pesach, that shepater min tashlum midmei eitzim. But over there, he does not make any payment, and he does not have to pay for the fire. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. That's what Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says. So similar to what we just learned before in Rabbi Kiva, that you do not have to make payment. And Rabbi Eliezer Chisma Mechai, he says you are Chai. So we have a similar shakel d'taya. Amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Eliezer Chisma v'chi ha'ma'hana yesh leibo. What do you mean you have to make a payment? There's no benefit. He ate something which is also b'hana. There's no value. So why should he have to pay v'chi ma'hana yesh leibo? Amar Rabbi Eliezer Chisma, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he answered back, v'chi ma'hana yesh leibo truma tamei b'shayim ma'aseh shana shemishalim. Well, if a person ate truma tamei b'shayim ma'aseh shana, also he cannot eat it. It doesn't have value, yet he does have to pay. Over there, yes, he cannot eat it, but he can use it for fuel. It has the hana, the benefit as fuel. But over here, the chametz on Pesach is also b'hana. You can't even use it and get benefit as fuel. he has a heter asaka here as well. Shim Ratza Kain Ritz Lifnei Kalba, because he could give it to his dog, a Masika Tachas Tavshila. So he says, no, it is Mutter Bahana. The Chametz is Mutter Bahana on Pesach, and therefore he took something of Hana, and therefore he has to replay it. So what do we see over here? We have the Shaila we want to say it's a Machlekes Tanoim, whether you pay Lefi Mida or Lefi the value of it, Lefi Domin. So Omar Abaye, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, they all hold Kulas Firle, Chametz B'Pesach, also Bahana. They all hold, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and Rabbi Kiva and Yochanan ben Nuri all hold Chametz B'Pesach is also Bahana. U'Baha Pligi. And what is the machlokes between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? The Rabbi Kiva savar lefi dam mishalem, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri savar lefi mida mishalem. They both hold that is on. Now we see in this dialogue between Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and Rabbi Elazar Chisma that it's not exactly the same as Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Now when Rabbi Akiva answered back to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri that it's not the same because by Chametz, by Truma, which is Tmeim b'Shayim Masechet, it's Mutar lahasaka, he did not answer back. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri didn't answer back. Here in this dialogue between Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and Rabbi Elazar Chisma, he answered back that yes, the Chametz is Mutar b'Hana. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar Chisma holds that Chametz b'Pesach is Mutar b'Hana, but the other Tanoim hold that Chametz b'Pesach is also b'Hana. So it's also b'Hana. What is the machlokes between Rabbi Kiva and between Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? They both agree that the Chametz is also b'Hana. The machlokes is, do you pay lefi the Mida or lefi Damin? If you pay lefi Damin, the monetary value, so Rabbi Kiva says he doesn't have to pay, there's no monetary value. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says you're not paying according to the value, you're paying according to the volume. So even though it has no value, but you have to replenish it with the same volume. So Pshita, of course that's the machlokes. The Gemara says no. You might think that he agrees to Rabbi Kiva that it's lefi damim is according to the value. But why is he mechayev? Because perhaps he holds like Rabbi Yosef Galili, so therefore it has damim, it has value. Kamash Malan. Therefore, he's teaching you by his teaching us that no, he agrees that it's also bahana, but he says nevertheless you have to pay because it's lefi mida mishalim. Well, maybe that is the case. Maybe that is the case that he holds that like a Rav Yosef Galili, and therefore there's something that's of Mutar b'Hana. Where it says no. Im kain nahadale Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Rabbi Kiva ki hechad mahadale Rabbi Elazar ben Chisma Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. If that's the case, he should have answered back in the same way that Rabbi Elazar Chisma answered back to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov when he said that there is a value that he can give it to his dog or he can use it as fuel. By the fact that he did not answer that, it shows that he agrees that you cannot get a benefit from it. You can't give it to your dog, you can't use it as fuel. He did not answer that. Nevertheless, he maintains that even though it's also bahana, nevertheless, the Zar has to pay the coin. He has to replenish it. Why is that? Must be because he holds that it's lefi mida mishalem is according to the measurement, not according to the value, and therefore you have to pay. And Rabbi Kiva holds no, it's lefi domim according to the value, but not according to the mida.